Mississippi leaders will go before the U.S. Supreme Court today, hoping to enact its new abortion ban, preventing most abortions past 15 weeks of pregnancy. The state's only abortion clinic will try to convince justices that the law is too restrictive.
And America wants to hear what this case could do to the future of abortion in America. Let's go live to WTVA's Craig Ford outside the U.S. Supreme Court on this big day.
Well, it's a good morning to you. This is one of many signs that this is a big day here for Mississippi at the United States Supreme Court. Now, obviously, there is a lot going on here today, not just with the protesters, but what will be happening inside. Arguments are set to start in about an hour here in front of the nation's high court concerning Mississippi's 15-week abortion ban. And we won't get a decision today. That will probably come at some point in the summer of next year. But for there to be a decision, there have to be arguments, and they are an hour away from here. So why is all of this a big deal? Why has this particular abortion ban before the high court generated not just those who are opposed to abortion, but those on this side over here who are for abortion rights? Well, because Mississippi's Attorney General Lynn Fitch has said basically, we don't just want this law enacted, we want Roe v. Wade overturned, a ruling which has allowed women in this country to have an abortion up to somewhere in the neighborhood of 24 weeks into pregnancy. At the moment, the court has a significant conservative slant, 6-3. Three of the justices you see here came onto the court during President Trump's time in office. The president saying at the time he wanted justices who would overturn Roe v. Wade. And the court's most senior member has for years said Roe should be overturned. Justice Clarence Thomas voted in 1992 to overturn it and wrote in a 2000 decision, although a state may permit abortion, nothing in the Constitution dictates that a state must do so. But not all conservatives necessarily would vote to overturn. For example, Chief Justice John Roberts said in his 2005 confirmation to the court that thinking an earlier case was wrongly decided is not enough by itself to overturn precedent. He said other factors should be considered, including whether a precedent has been eroded by subsequent developments. And many legal analysts have speculated the court may not overturn Roe v. Wade, but could chip away at it enough to allow more prohibitions on the procedure. And since we're talking about conservatives in the court, it's worth noting that when the decision came on Roe v. Wade back in 1973, interestingly enough, it was a 7-2 vote, but 6 of those justices were appointed to the court by Republicans. So you could say you had at least a slight majority of establishment Republicans who made that landmark ruling that has kept abortion intact. Of course, what happens behind us today could lead to a major change in abortion in this country. For now, we are live in the nation's capital, outside the United States Supreme Court with videographer Alvin Ivey. I'm Craig Ford, WTVA 9 News.
Thanks, Craig. And there is a lot of folks out there behind you. Aside from the Attorney General, have you happened to run across anyone from Mississippi?
Interesting you mentioned that. Right before our live shot, at the start of the 7 o'clock hour, a gentleman, a church planter from Amory came up to us, and we actually had an opportunity to interview him. You will hear from him a little bit later. He's here as part of a prayer event that's taking place not right behind us, but it's off to the side on one of these side streets near the court. Of course, he and many others are opposed to abortion, and they're hoping to see this Roe v. Wade ruling be overturned. Also, as far as those who are in support of abortion rights, I spoke with a woman who's a former Mississippi resident. She was a graduate of Millsaps College, and she was here among the many over on that side. In case you don't really know the lay of the land here, on the left side of the barricade are those who are for abortion rights. Those here on the right side of the barricade and really right in front of the court, those are the folks who are for more limits on abortion in America. But Daniela, yes, we have, and not only, and of course, as I mentioned at the start, there are these Mississippi-shaped signs that we've seen on both sides of the abortion issue. So there is definitely a Mississippi influence here today. And we'll be sharing with you some of those interviews with Mississippians past and present a little bit later today. Daniela?
Thanks, Craig, so much. We will be hearing from you in our next hour, not our next hour, our next newscast at noon.